Hey, it's Angela from the blog Angela Marie Made. Today I'm sharing how to install a board and batten accent wall on a full wall. Brandon and I are starting our living room makeover, and we have a really large wall in the room that currently has a faux shiplap treatment on it. As much as I love the shiplap, I'm ready for a fresh change. I love board and batten, and we've used it a few other times in our home, but only going halfway up the wall as a wainscoting treatment. I'll link my project tutorial for that below this video. For our living room makeover, I want to do a floor-to-ceiling board and batten treatment, and I want to do a box or rectangular style. For this project, we're using pre-primed 1x4 and 1x6 wood boards. Before we get started though, make sure to subscribe and follow along. I share fun new DIY and decor projects almost every week here on the channel. Alright, let's get started with this board and batten. Before starting our board and batten, we had to remove our existing shiplap, which caused some unexpected drywall damage. I'll explain what we did about this in a little bit. Step 1 is to remove the existing baseboards and crown molding from the wall. To remove the existing baseboard, score the top and corner caulk lines with a utility knife. Then use a pry bar and a hammer to remove the baseboard from the wall. If you have crown molding like us, you can remove it the same way as the baseboard. The next step is optional depending on the condition of your drywall. If you have a wall in good condition or not heavily textured, you can skip this step. But because our drywall was damaged from the shiplap removal, rather than having to repair it, we decided to install 1/4 inch ready to paint plywood with brad nails into our wall studs. We also used our Dremel tool to cut around the wall outlets. This plywood worked great for easily covering the damaged drywall. It also creates a really smooth wall surface, so if you have heavily textured walls, this is a great option. Step 3 is to install the new board and batten baseboard. Before installing the new 1x4 baseboard, we cut the wall molding corners 3/4 of an inch, which is the width of the 1x4, in order to fit the new board. We used our Dremel again, but a jigsaw or a wood chisel and hammer may be used as well. We also had to do this with our crown molding too on the adjacent walls. Measure the length of your wall and cut a 1x4 to size using a miter saw. Because our wall is almost 24 feet long, we had to use 2 8-foot boards. We are just going to fill the cut seam at the end with wood filler. Also, use a level to ensure that the baseboard is level when it's being installed. Install the baseboard along the bottom of the wall with a brad nailer and 2-inch brad nails going into the wall studs. You can use a stud finder to find the wall studs. There are a few options for the top molding board. You can use just another 1x4, or you can take it up a notch and layer crown molding over the board like we did. Because we are adding our crown molding to the top, we installed a 1x6, 6.5 inches down from the ceiling so that 4 inches of the bottom of the 1x6 board would show, and we could nail the crown into the top portion of the 1x6. We used a level again and installed the 1x6 with 2-inch nails into the wall studs. Determine what you want the spacing to be for your board and batten. Because our wall is so large, I wanted to do larger spacing. For reference, for our son's board and batten nursery wall, the wall was about half this size and I used 16.5 inch spacing. Here's how I figured out my exact batten spacing for this wall in order to have a batten board starting and ending on both corners of the wall. I knew that I wanted around 24 to 28 inches of spacing between each board so it would look great visually. So to figure out about how many batten boards that would be, I took our total wall length of 184 inches and a quarter and divided by 25 inches, which equaled roughly 7 boards. To get the exact spacing, I then did the following math. 7 batten boards times 3.5 inches, which is the actual width of 1x4 boards, which equals 24.5 inches. Then I took the length of my wall and subtracted the 24.5 inches, which gave me 159 3/4 of an inch, which I divided by 6, which is the number of spaces between 7 boards. This gave me 26.625 inches, which equals 26 10/16 of an inch on a tape measure. The other consideration is that we have 2 wall outlets and a cable box on our wall. This measurement was the only one that worked to avoid almost all 3 of them and still look bright visually. I'll explain soon how we worked around the wall outlet that is part of the spot where one of our battens goes. Ideally though, you want to pick a spacing combination that avoids all of the wall outlets. Mark on the wall exactly where your battens need to go based on the spacing you determined in the last step. Measure the exact height needed for each batten based on where they will be attached to the wall. Because most walls aren't perfectly straight, the measurements may be slightly different for each. Cut each 1x4 batten board to size using a miter saw. Use liquid nails or construction adhesive and brad nails to attach the battens to the wall, starting with the far right wall corner. Because these vertical boards are being installed vertically, they are unlikely to go over the wall stud, so that's why liquid nails needs to be used. For the second batten board, we measured our batten spacing width from the edge of the last 1x4 board and marked where the next batten needed to go. As I said previously, our second batten board partially crosses over our right wall outlet, but fortunately it only crosses over about 1 inch over the outlet cover plate and not the outlet. In order to still use the outlet and keep the board in the correct spot, we marked on the 1x4 board where it crossed over the outlet cover and used our Dremel to notch out that wood at that spot about a ½ inch deep. This allowed the board to be installed over the outlet plate, leaving enough room to still take it on and off the wall and still use the outlet. After the outlet challenge, we continued installing the battens. Another challenge we ran into with a few of the battens is that the wall wasn't straight everywhere, so our batten board didn't line up flush with the baseboard edge. To fix this, we shimmed behind the batten board by applying liquid nails on the back of some paint sticks, which we attached behind the batten board. If you need thinner wood, you could also use wood popsicle sticks or wood shims. Step 7 is to install the crown molding. If you are adding crown molding, go ahead and install it over the top board with brad nails. If you have existing crown molding on the adjacent wall like us, it's easiest to just cope the ends of the crown molding so it goes right over the adjacent crown molding. Brandon used an orbital sander and coping saw to cope the ends of our crown molding. Next, decide on the spacing for the top and bottom horizontal boards, which are used to create a rectangular or box style molding. I chose 16½ inches for the spacing in the top box and bottom box. So I measured and marked 16½ inches up from the baseboard and then 16½ inches down from the bottom of the top 1x6. Cut the 1x4s to size for the horizontal boards. Then install each 1x4 board at the marks, again using a level to ensure they are straight. Use 2-inch brad nails and nail the board into the wall stud. If you can't hit a stud, you can use liquid nails again. Step 9 is to prep for paint. Fill any large gaps in with wood filler and fill all nail holes with a light spackle, then lightly sand once it's dry. Finally, caulk all of the seams with a paintable caulk. Paint the wall with 2 coats of paint. We used Simply White by Benjamin Moore in Eggshell for our paint color. Also, if you don't use pre-primed boards, make sure to prime before painting. Finally, if you had to add plywood to the wall like we did, you can add wall plate spacers to bring the electrical outlets flush with the cover plate, then install the cover plate over the cut plywood for a professional look. wall turns out. I think it adds so much character and really elevates the look of the room. Let me know if you have any questions below, and please subscribe. I'll be sharing the full living room makeover really soon, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.